Hello and welcome back to math class. You're going to notice that I'm moving on to lesson 10. However, before we go to lesson 10, I want to flip back to Mrs. Houck's Big Boo Boo. And I even knew the answer. How many of you caught this? Look on this page. How many of you caught the answer that I did wrong? I put this nice highlight. I said how we had 40 gallons of water. And then I kind of said, well, if we only have 40 gallons of water, we don't have enough room for 4 fish. But yet, I still went down here and put my 4 fish. I hope you guys caught that and corrected it. I caught it as I had to watch the video twice and thought, ugh, rough day. All right, but we are going to flip over here to lesson 10. Lesson 10 looks like this. All right, so I have some highlighters here that I'm going to use. So if you have some highlighters, it might be helpful. We're going to continue making some ratio tables, as you can see in front of you. It says, imagine that you are making a fruit salad. For every quart of blueberries you add, you would like to put in 3 quarts of strawberries. We're going to go ahead and highlight that. It's our first ratio. Create 3 ratio tables that show the amounts of blueberries and strawberries you would use if you needed to make fruit salad for greater numbers of people. Table 1 should contain amounts where you have added fewer than 10 quarts of blueberries to the salad. And Table 2 should contain amounts of blueberries between 10 and 50 quarts. And Table 3 should contain amounts of blueberries greater than 100 quarts. Well, let's go ahead and start with Table 1. And Table 1 says we're going to should contain amounts where you have added fewer than 10 quarts. Well, we're going to use the ratio that was in the beginning story, 1 quart of blueberries and 3 quarts of strawberries. Then I know my number is going to be less than 10. So the quarts we set up here, every quart of blueberries, that's 1. You would like to put in 3 quarts for strawberries. 3. Well, if I want to double my order, remember we're going to put 2 quarts. We're going to double this. See if you can go ahead and finish my table for me. Okay, so you'll notice I counted by 1s for my blueberries and 3s for my strawberries. If I put in 5 quarts of blueberries, I'm putting in 15 quarts for strawberries. Now let's look at the second table. Well, the second table is a little bit different. I'm going to use a different highlighter here. Table 2 wants me to, it says contain amounts of blueberries between 10 and 50 quarts. 10 and 50 quarts. So my blueberries have to be at 10. So I'm going to make this at 10. And it's going to want me to go through 50. All right, well, that means I'm going to do 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Well, let's see. If I had 1 quart of blueberries for 3 quarts of strawberries, and I've now made it 10, how many quarts of strawberries would I need? The answer is 30. So then this answer would be, oh, look at this. There's a little pattern here. So this would be 60. Can you figure out the pattern and solve the rest of my problems? Oh, 12. Oh, that's going to be 120. Oh, look, I'm counting here by 30s. All right, so we have table 1, table 2, and let's look at table 3. Table 3. Table 3 says we should contain amounts of blueberries greater than 100. Greater than 100. Let's go ahead and just start with 100. And let's continue the same pattern here as we're doing. This we counted by 1s, this we counted by 10s. Let's count by hundreds. All right, I want to see if you can figure out what the quarts for strawberries would be. If you put here, the quart of strawberries would be 300, you are correct. This would be 600. Look at what's the pattern here. Adding 2 zeros, adding 2 zeros, adding 2 zeros. All right, so we have filled in our ratio table. We're going to use those ratio tables to answer some questions on the next page. Okay, so we're going to look here at letter A. Describe any patterns you see in the tables. Be specific in your descriptions. All right, well, let's kind of look at our tables one more time here. Let me look them over here. So, first of all, I noticed some different patterns. I'm counting by ones. I'm counting by threes. That's table number 1. Table number 2, I noticed I was counting by tens and by 30s. Table number 3, we counted by 100s. And then over here we counted by 300s. But the other pattern I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed, is look what happened when you went from this column to this column. What happened from this number to this number? We did it every single time. We even did it down here. We even did it over here. One of the patterns I noticed is I took the quarts of blueberries and I multiplied it times 3 to get my strawberries. 2 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Did it work down here? 100 times 3 is 300. 200 times 3, 600. Oh, look at this. It worked. Even 10 times 3 was 30. So our paper asked us to describe any patterns you see in the tables. Be specific in your descriptions. When it says be specific, I want you to tell me, like, for example, which table. Which table? We talked about a lot of things. We talked about we counted in table 1 by 1s and 3s. Table 2, we counted by 10s and 30s. We counted in table 3 by 100s and 300s. And then the other thing we noticed is we went from the first column into the second column by multiplying by 3. What I would like for us to do is we're going to put at least 3 things. You can either copy my 3 or you can come up with your own. All right, so let me show you mine. So my first one I did was I looked at the first table and I talked about how we can multiply by 3, and I also talked about counting. So I have here for my first thing, I said the value in the second column is always 3 times the first column. So the value over here is 3 times larger, which means this was taken times 3. Then the second thing I put was, I noticed how in the first table, the first column increases by 1, and the second column increases by 3. And my last one I said is the second table counts by 10s and 30s. So I kind of wised up and shortened my answer here. If you would like to pause your video so you can use my answers, you sure can. But I'd like for you to describe at least 3 different things that you see from our ratio tables. Okay, question B. How are the amounts of blueberries and strawberries related to each other? Well, if we notice, we went from blueberries to strawberries. Every single table, no matter where I went, we always took the blueberries times 3 to get the strawberries. So the strawberries are 3 times larger than the blueberries. So I said the amounts of strawberries is 3 times the amount of blueberries. I also put here a little B for the blueberries. We took our blueberries times 3 to get our strawberries. All right, so let's go to part C. We're going to make this one pretty simple. It says, how are the values in the blueberries column related to each other? So if I look at the blueberries column, how are these related? What am I doing? Well, it looks like to me each time I was adding 1, right? Adding 1 from here to here, I added 1. All right, over here, what was I doing? Looks like I was adding by tens, right? Each time, 10 more, 10 more, 10 more. And on this one, it looks like we were adding by 100s. So we kind of had a pattern that it was repeating over and over and over. Ones, tens, and hundreds. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to write here, how are the values of the blueberries column related to each other? Well, let's say here, table 1, we added by 1s. In table 2, the blueberries, if you remember, we added by 10s. And then in table 3, the blueberries, we added them by 100s. All right, well, let's do the same thing for the strawberries. Let's look at the strawberries. What am I adding by here? Looks like we're adding by 3s. Yep. What are we, 30 to 60 looks like we're adding by 30. Keeps going. Over here we were adding by 300s. All right, so first table. In table 1, the strawberries were adding by 3s. In table 2, we notice that the strawberries were adding down by 30s. And in table 3, we notice we were adding by 300s. Lots of patterns today in our lesson. Okay, let's move down to E. If we know we want to add 7 quarts of blueberries to the fruit salad in table 1, how can we use the table to help us determine how many strawberries to add? Well, if I look here at table 1, I stopped at 5. But I need to know if I would put a 7 here, what number would go there? Well, I could put a 6 and keep counting, or I could just do the pattern that we remembered. We multiplied it by 3. And so our answer should be 21. All right, let's flip over to the next page. If we know we used 70 quarts of blueberries to make our salad, how can we use a ratio table to find out how many quarts of strawberries we used? Well, 70 would probably go on this table. We'd have a 60 and then a 70. What number would go here? 2 ways to solve it. You can either multiply this times 3, or you could continue counting by 30s. And what would that be? 210. So we're going to come here, we're going to say 210 quarts of strawberries. Okay, very good. All right, we're going to look at some ratio tables down here. The ratio tables that you see, okay, it says here that the following tables were made incorrectly. Something is wrong here. And something is wrong here. Take your highlighter, your pencil, whatever you're using, and see if you can circle or find the mistakes that were made. Then once we find the mistakes here, we're going to correct it over here. Okay, so I've given you a little hint now. I've circled them for you. I would like for you to copy this table over here, but put the correct number. I want you to copy this table over here, and I want you to put the correct numbers. The numbers I circled are incorrect. All right, let's see how you did. So this side, it looked like we are counting down by 2's. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 2 is 9. That works great. What side were we counting by on that side? Well, if I look correctly, it looks like from here to here I'm adding 16. So I probably need to add 16 here. That's one way I could solve this. Another way, I noticed this pattern. Did you see this one? I'm multiplying times 8 across. 5 times 8, 9 times 8. So the answer you should have put was 56. Let's look at the bottom one. This we're counting by, it looks like we're adding 3's, right? Plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. I don't know what I'm counting here because I don't have enough numbers. So I'm going to have to go across. How did I go from 1 to 5? We're multiplying when we go across. Looks like I'm going to multiply by 5. So what's 4 times 5? 20. 7 times 5? 35. And 10 times 5? 50. There's our numbers. Now, we notice that there's 2 more things we need to fill in, and that's called the ratio. Well, the ratio, there's lots of ratios here, right? But I want to know what the value is. And so if you've been paying attention, the value is taking these ratios and reducing them. Let's just look at the first one here, 3 over 24. So we have 3 and 24. That's the smallest ratio we have. Is that going to be the value? Well, I think if I would look at my factor sheet, there's a number that can go into both of these. This can actually reduce. The number that can go into both of them happens to be the number 3. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 24 8 times. So the ratio I want to use for this is 1 hour to $8. Okay, let's look at this one. This has here 1 to 5. Can 1 to 5 go any smaller? It can't. I already know that because it has a 1 already in it, and 1 can never go any smaller. So I know my ratio. The value is 1 to 5. Well, fabulous work today. Thanks for paying attention again today in math class. I wish you guys all a great afternoon and evening, and I will see you all tomorrow.